What's going on, guys? It's Chris here, and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be doing another basic guide too, and we're going to be going over the Regenesis archetype that comes out in Alliance Insight. Now, in my opinion, this engine is the second best engine in the game that we have right now, just behind Fiendsmith, because Fiendsmith is just insane. And I say engine because this deck, as a standalone deck, doesn't really do enough. However, this paired with a lot of stuff is insane. And I will say that this deck has a okay turn 1 and the best turn 3 I have ever seen in the game. Every single card you see now does something very, very basic, but does it so consistently because of the recursion that you're going to get during the end phase. We're going to go ahead and go card by card, and I'll explain the ratios of what each card is being played at right now in deck lists I've seen. We're going to go over some decks that I have seen and tested, and we're going to go ahead and talk about how fantastic this deck is, because it really, really is such a strong deck. Starting off with Regenesis Archfiend. It is a Fiend Earth monster, level 8, and has the following effect. You can special summon this card from your hand by revealing one other monster in your hand with 2500 attack or defense, and you can only special summon Regenesis Archfiend once per turn this way. You can also, when this card is normal or special summoned, add any Regenesis card from your deck or banishment to your hand, and you can only do that effect once per turn. And then all of them have the following effect of during your opponent's end phase, if this card is in your graveyard because it was sent this turn, you can add it back to your hand, giving you the entire engine back again. So this card, by far, mandatory 3 of. It's your searcher for any Regenesis card, including the spell or traps, for the low cost of revealing a 2500 attack or defense, which is going to be either any of the Regenesis or some of the most powerful meta staples in the game, because 2500 is kind of everywhere, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Next, we're going to be moving on to Regenesis Warrior Bashit, a level 7 warrior fire. If a monster with 2500 attack or defense is on the field, it's a free special summon from hand. You can also use the following effect once per turn. Tribute this card, target a card your own opponent controls, and return it to the hand. And again, during the end phase, if it's sent there this turn, add it back to your hand. Recursion insane. This card probably going to be used at 1. It is basic level disruption, but that's what all of these do, and they do it so well. Unfortunately, this card does target, which definitely slightly hinders it, as still in the game we have stuff that is immune to targeting. However, this card, very, very strong. We're in a format right now where cards need to stick. That's why Detonator is becoming a massive problem, or was a massive problem, because cards just can't stick on the field. So the fact that you can just bounce stuff, really, really good. Going back to stuff like Live Twin, if they can't get them twins on the board and they're constantly getting bounced to hand, they struggle to do stuff. Same with Malice. If it's getting returned to hand and they can't extend by getting cards banished with Gold Sark and the Bistiles and the new one that's basically a Bistile, it struggles. They can have 40 cards in the hand. If they're all dead, fine with me. This is, however, only a once per turn, and it is just a basic level compulse, so let's not sing its praises too much. However, Sage Shamot, probably the best card in the deck. It is a pretty much omni-negate and destruction. It negates activation, and it is of course a quick effect by resending any Regenesis card from your hand or face up on the field. Also has that same summoning condition if a monster with 2500 attack or defense is on the field, and also has that same recursion if your opponent goes to their end phase and it's in the grave, it adds itself back. Omni-negates are never, never bad, or just negates in general are never, never bad. 2500, Spellcaster, level 7, water, pretty good stats, pretty good attribute, pretty good typing. I have found that all of these having different typings does make it really cool to play things like Gozen Match, all different types, so you can play things like TC Boo in like stun builds. Very, very strong. The last one is Regenesis Dragon Valkyria, same summoning condition. This one, however, will tribute a card, specifically this card, and target a spell and trap your opponent controls and banish it. And again, during the end phase, if it's in the grave because it's sent there this turn, add it back to your hand. Recursion again, fantastic. Good stats again, fantastic. Easy to summon again, fantastic. And the effect, pretty good. We moved, many formats ago, from things like Twin Twisters to Cosmic Cyclone, just on the sole factor that the card banishes and they don't get graveyard effects off it. So the fact that this banishes and doesn't destroys definitely gives it a big thumbs up, and all three of those cards are probably going to be played at 1 due to how accessible they are and how recurable they are. You don't want to be drawing multiple, you would rather be drawing multiple of your searcher and get the specific one you need, rather than be drawing the Omni Negate multiple times or the Spell and Trap multiple times. So all three of these probably going to be played at 1. The last Regenesis monster we're going to be talking about is the Regenesis God. This is the boss monster for the deck. Pretty good stats, pretty good type, pretty good attribute. Weird level, but we'll talk about level 10, because the rest being level 7 or 8 definitely synergizes with some decks, and of course gives you access to rank 7 and rank 8 if you don't lock yourself out the extra deck, because this deck does lock yourself out the extra deck. We'll get onto those cards very soon. This has a different summoning condition. Cannot be normal summon or set. Must be special summon by banishing a face-up monster with 2500 attack or defense. Not the worst. You can recur your banished cards back with the Regenesis Archfiend we talked about earlier. So, not the worst. You can only special summon it once per turn, and if special summoned, you can actually set a Regenesis spell or trap directly from your deck. That effect, pretty good. The trap is very good, and the spells, they do what spells need to do. They're searchers, the special summons, they're pretty good spells and traps. You can only use the following effect once per turn. Gains 2500 effect during the battle phase, and it also does piercing damage. This is typically played at 0 to 1 copies. Unfortunately, it's just kind of a win more card. It gives you access to your Regenesis spells and traps, which is fantastic, but it is just your big boss monster that does a bit more damage, tries to end the game. Some people like cards like that, but it is just win more, and the fact that this doesn't recur and everything else does, like I said earlier, if you're pairing this with a deck or engine that does enough, especially to stall you to turn 3, this deck's just going to win anyway, because this has such an explosive turn 3 play, it's unbelievable. Moving on to the first spell, which is Regenesis. Nothing fancy, just Regenesis. And it takes a Regenesis monster from your deck, either adds it to your hand or sends it to the grave. And if you control a Regenesis monster, you can add a monster with 2500 attack or defense from your deck to your hand instead. Any monster with 2500 attack and defense specifically has to be attack and defense, so there's very few that this can search. Does search some cool stuff, we'll talk about it after, but it's not the best. However, it does have a second effect. You can banish this card and target a Regenesis monster in your grave and special summon it. Being a normal spell, pretty strong. It's a searcher again, it's going to be played at 3, just because it adds your Regenesis stuff. Between this and the Archfiend, that's 6 searchers to get your engine going, and we're then going to be pairing it with 3 copies of the next card, which is Toa Regenesis, which is just going to special summon 1 from your deck, but during your end phase, during your opponent's end phase, it's sent to grave, and then again during the end phase, you're going to get it back. You can also not special summon from the extra deck until the end of the next turn after this card resolves. So it kind of has that Dogmatic or Punishment-esque effect. And then during your main phase, except the turn it was sent, you can banish this card and target a Regenesis monster that is banished and special summon it. So you can get your cards that you banish off of this. You can get anything that's been banished off, like your Malice cards in the Malice Mirror, your DD Crows, because they're definitely seeing a lot more this format. If anything's been Bistile, you can get it back. Not bad, it gets your banished stuff back, and it's basically E-Telly, also going to be played at 3. And then the last card is Regenesis Birth. This is the trap. It is a continuous trap that allows you to send a Regenesis monster from your deck to the grave and target a face-up monster your opponent controls and just Book of Moon it. And then during your opponent's turn, you can send this card face up from your spell and trap zone to the graveyard and special summon as many Regenesis monsters as possible from your hand, grave, or banish, but they're sent to the grave during the end phase. Again, a little bit of recursion from the banished there, and just gives you potential to survive. You can swarm the board during your opponent's turn, and then of course you're going to get all their effects if you haven't managed to recur them. The negate, the banish, the negate, the banish, and the compulse. Really good. However, this being a normal trap, again, feels a little bit win more. I personally would play one copy, but I probably would consider siding it rather than maining it. So briefly going over all of them again, your Archfiend's a 3 of, your Warrior, your Sage, and your Dragon, probably just one copy. Your God, probably aren't playing this card. Regenesis is a 3 of, Toa is a 3 of, and your Birth probably would look at siding one. But as a deck, this doesn't do nothing. It's only as good as the engines you pair with it. So let's talk about some engines you can pair with this deck. Okay, so the first engine I want to talk about is Ryzeal. It synergizes really well with the Ryzeal cards. The Ryzeal cards are, again, a super small, compact engine that's really strong in the meta, probably the second strongest deck in the game, mostly the Mitsuguri build, but the Regenesis build is, in my opinion, just as strong and just as recurable. It's going to be playing 3 copies of Archfiend, 1 of each of the others, and 3 of each spell. And then your Ryzeal engine's probably going to be 2 Ice, 2 Sword, 2 X. Maybe throw in a plug-in, a couple of crosses, a node. And you're also going to be playing a Volcanic Queen. And then some stuff to up your consistency. 7th Tachyon, Bonfire, 7th Ascension's very good. Pot of Prosperity. Throw those together, you got yourself 14 flex spots here for your favourite hand traps, your favourite going second card, your favourite floodgates, whatever you want. Then you're going to be making sure that you're playing, of course, Detonator, Duo Drive. Infernal Flame Banshee is also important for this combo, and Eclipse of the Twins. This is going to be a 2-card combo with X Ryzeal and the Regenesis Archfiend. So let's go ahead and show you the basic Ryzeal Regenesis combo and how it works. It's going to start by special summoning X Ryzeal, sending Eclipse of the Twins to the grave. X Ryzeal will, of course, add your any Ryzeal to your hand. We're going to be going for Sword Ryzeal. Sword Ryzeal will go ahead and special summon itself, and this will also get you another Ryzeal card. So we're going to get Ice Ryzeal here. We're going to go ahead and overlay both of these now for that Infernal Flame Banshee that we mentioned earlier. This card is seeing a little bit more play in Ryzeal right now, just because it gives you access to a variety of things. As you can see, we can get another copy of Ice or X, but we're actually going to get a Volcanic Queen and make sure we add it to our hand. And then we're going to go ahead and use the Regenesis Archfiend here, revealing the Volcanic Queen, and that's going to go ahead and special summon itself and get you any Regenesis card from your deck. We, of course, have access to all, but we're going to go for Sage. And the reason we're going to go for Sage here is because this is actually going to be our 5th summon, which means we're now Nibiru-proof. We can then go ahead and commit our normal summon. We're going to normal summon Ice Ryzeal. Ice Ryzeal effect will activate and get you a copy of Node. Node will activate now, and going to go ahead and send that Infernal Flame Banshee. We don't need it now, and get you any of the other Ryzeal names back. And then we can go ahead and use all 3 of these to go into Ryzeal Detonator, which will then go ahead and use its effect and actually attach that Eclipse of the Twins we sent earlier to the grave. So this is the basic end board. You're still going to have 3 in hand. We have a Detonator now with 4 materials, so this is going to be 4 pops, and then of course if it's outed we have the Twins to re-equip it back, and a negate if our opponent hasn't hand trapped us. Pretty good for a 2-card combo. We haven't used our duo yet, we haven't used any of our other stuff. Like I said, you're pairing this with 14 or so non-engine. Pretty standard board that a Ryzeal deck can make, paired with the Regenesis stuff. Obviously all of this is going to recur as well during the end phase, so you're going to have access to it all again. The Queen's going to be in your hand as well, so this Archfiend can summon straight away, and you can get your other cards as follow-up, whether that be, you know, your spell and trap removal or your compulse. Really, really strong basic Ryzeal board. Ryzeal, really good with the Regenesis cards. So the second engine I want to talk about is Kashtira. Unicorn meets that 2500 threshold in order to make all of this possible. We also have access to cool cards in the extra deck like Raid Raptor Arsenal Falcon, which also has that 2500 threshold, which is a generic rank 7 that also gives you 2 extra bodies, and 2 extra bodies these days will just make you Fiendsmith stuff. We, for some reason, have put 2 Sequentia in here, but you definitely don't need that. So we're going to go ahead and show you some cool stuff you can do with this. This is going to make a really, really strong board. It is a sort of 3-card combo, but it can be done with so many different variants. As long as you get access to like these 3 cards, you're pretty much fine. It can be done with like Pressure Planet, Unicorn, Fenrir, any of those. If you've played the decks, you'll know exactly how they both work. It's going to go ahead and start with Fenrir, and Fenrir is actually going to get you your Unicorn, which will immediately put your Regenesis engine super duper live. and is going to give you access to Archfiend, and Archfiend, of course, will give you access to your Sage, meaning that we are now Nibiru-proof once again. So this combo will play through Nibiru. It's going to set up multiple negates, which, you know what, these days you don't see multiple negates. Like, everything's gone to sort of destruction and popping and just controlling things like Malice and Ryzeal. So to set up big combo boards like this with multiple negates feels really good. Feels like when Appaloosa was legal and, you know, every deck was just making Appaloosa. And we're going to go ahead and use both of those to go into the Arsenal Falcon. Arsenal Falcon will get you your Tribute Lanius. Tribute Lanius will get you to your Raider's Wing. And here we have 2 extra bodies on the board right now in order to help set up Fiendsmith stuff. So we'll go ahead and use both of these to go into Moon of the Closed Sky. Use this to go into Requiem. And we're now off to the races with the Fiendsmith. Requiem will go ahead, summon out your Lacrima. Lacrima will go ahead and send your Engraver. Standard Fiendsmith stuff. Fun, fun, fun. Your combo here can differ. You can go ahead and make the Caesar, which is what we're going to do. You can also just go ahead and make stuff like the Sequentia to go into the Desiree, and then use your Birth to special summon back like one of your kashtira names, which will probably end up being like Fenrir, maybe Unicorn. You know, the format is kind of like hurts if you Unicorn, especially into stuff like the Ryzeal match, where of course, you know, you Ryzeal the Detonator, and it's like, ooh. So we go ahead and use both of these now to make Caesar. We're going to go ahead and make it in the extra monster zone, just so we have extra space. We can go ahead and use Birth now, get ourselves any one of these, and go ahead and use Theosis now, to basically get you the other name, so we can go ahead and target the Unicorn. No, we don't want to negate, and get the Fenrir. So this gives you access to both. If you're feeling like this isn't enough, you can also do some funny things, like overlay both of these here into any of your other rank 7s, and you can then go ahead and actually use both of these to make something like F0, which is also just another negate as well. Uses up that Raid Raptor Arsenal Falcon and makes it good. So here we have 2 summon negates, an Omni negate, another negate of activation, Birth as well is also live, and on top of this we do actually have Lacrima and Requiem engraved, meaning that during our opponent's turn we will actually be able to go ahead and send our copy of Fiendsmith in Paradise and use our Desiree summon to bounce another thing. So this is also really strong. Kashtira Regenesis, super strong build, really like this one. Okay, last but not least, we're just going to go over the last few things for the Regenesis stuff. Bistile is very strong. If you go ahead and search up Regenesis Bistile builds, there is hundreds going on. It might be the best version of the deck right now. Every single one of them fits the 2500 threshold, so even if you don't want to play a more pure Bistile build, including Magna Hut and Druis Worm, even a Saronir in any of your lists is fantastic. They're all pretty much non-engine cards that are going to provide disruption, that also synergize really well with your Regenesis stuff. On top of that, you do kind of get locked out of your extra deck, so there's no reason to not consider the Nadir Servant engine. The Nadir Servants, as well as an Ecclesia, a Punishment, and even a Fleur de Lis, is really strong. This, in my opinion, is a super slept on engine, as this card is basically just Upstart Goblin if you send something like Garua, and of course Fleur de Lis is actually 25/25, so on top of it being searchable with Ecclesia, you can actually search it with the Regenesis spell, which is a little bit more of a niche thing. There's very few things that this card searches because it has to have both 2500 attack and defense. Primite works really well with Blue Eyes. I've actually not put Blue Eyes in here, but Blue Eyes as well is also 2500, so this stuff works really well. And if you're not feeling Blue Eyes and you want to be more Yugi bait, you can actually just play a more pure Primite build, which actually is playing stuff like Summon Skull right now. This build is kind of popularized by like Jesse Cotton, who just wanted to play a funny Primite build and started playing Summon Skull, and this build has kind of took off a little bit now. They're all really good engines for stuff that provide 2500 attack bodies in hand in order to get the special summons. However, it's not just an in-hand thing that you need. You can also do stuff from field. Having the 2500 body on the field does actually give you access to just special summon some of the Regenesis cards anyway, and some of the stuff you can do with that is really cool as well. Wanted, Diabellstar in the Deception engine, these all fit 2500 both in hand on field. Horus actually has multiple Horus names being 2500, as well as just giving you access, actually not multiple names, sorry, just the Earth one has 2500, but you do tend to, when you play this deck, actually go into some really powerful cards, especially the rank 8 toolbox. Number 90 comes to mind, fits the 2500, and I also think Zombie Vampire does not, sorry. Number 90 is going to be your go-to card anyway because it's the negate. Also fits that threshold for Regenesis. Invoked also just makes Mechaba. Mechaba also will fit that 2500 threshold. And last but not least, the card I want to talk about is Dragon's Mind. This card is very, very strong, is a common in Alliance Insight as well, and is just a counter-trap Omni-Negate that can also pay 2500 and summon back. This is actually a card I have considered playing in another deck that also synergizes very well with this, which is Eldritch. Eldritch is also one of my favourite decks, so Regenesis Eldritch also could be a pretty cool list. But that has been it, guys. Hopefully you can go out and experiment with this engine right now, because it is phenomenal. I really like that kashtira build that I made earlier, and I really, really like playing both the Blue Eyes build, the Bistile build. Even the Ryzeal build is very good. I think I do prefer it over the Mitsuguri build, but that's just obviously down to preference. I think the Mitsuguri build is better, and if you're wanting to compete in Alliance Insight, why would you opt for less optimal? But it's been your boy Screech, guys. Hopefully you've learned stuff about the Regenesis deck today. If you have, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my other Alien videos. We have a basic guide to Live Twin with all of the new support uploaded last week, so make sure that you go ahead and go and check that out. It's been your boy Screech, guys. Peace!